Hello, my beautiful bookish people. Today I am doing the Femathon Tag because it is Femathon and Faye from Books and Chocoholic made a tag and I'm one of the hosts, so I'm by default tagged. So, yay! As always, I have my trusty notes here because my brain is that of a goldfish sometimes and I can't remember these things, which is why I'm constantly looking down at notes in my videos. So, prompt number 1 is an ugly book cover you love. Hold up a sec, I have to pull it out because I totally forgot to pre-pull the books that I was using in this video because planning is not a thing I did apparently. Okay, I have procured my props now, so I can continue on with this. An ugly book cover that I absolutely love would belong to this very boring looking boy over here. Why am I gendering my books? I don't know. This is probably the oldest, like physically the oldest book in my collection, not necessarily the oldest book in existence that I have read, as in when it was written, but as in physically the oldest copy that I own, because she's a little ratty-tatty, she's fallen apart a little bit, she's a cloth bound. Why did I just switch genders from boy to girl? Why am I doing this with a book? I don't know. Moving on. It's the World's Literary Masterpieces edition of Tales by Poe, and it has some detailing on the spine, which, come on, focus on it. There we go. Some nice details, but that's about it. She's brown, she's boring. She has a little bit of detailing here, which hopefully is showing up on camera, maybe. I grew up reading this copy. It was the one that I kept by my bedside, and I would fall asleep reading Poe because teenage angst, and honestly, this is still the person I am today. I would still fall asleep reading Poe if I wasn't reading so many other books right now. It just so happened to have been one of the ones that I had in my possession as a teen. And can we also appreciate the fact that this book looks like kind of mysterious and falling apart, which is also totally on brand with some of Poe's writing. That just makes me happy. Next is a book that displays authentic female friendships. Like, they don't have to be the best in the world or the worst or like putting other people down or whatever. Like, all of those things can happen, and all of those are things which do happen sometimes. But I'm talking about the friendships that just seem absolutely real. Like, yes, you're not perfect. You're learning about friendships. This is just so realistic. It's not like, I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. I don't expect things to be realistic always, but it's nice to find a book that displays like genuine friendships sometimes. And for that, I have Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which I just finished. Anyways, I'm supposed to be talking about female friendships, and in this book, possibly my favorite female character ever right now is Serene, and she's from a neighboring kingdom. She was betrothed to someone at some point, but she's like, I don't even like this guy. This guy doesn't offer me any political capital by marrying him. I don't like it. Dad, I'm calling off the engagement. And the king's like, okay, sure, whatever you want, Serene. And then eventually she goes, okay, we kind of need to form ties with the neighboring kingdom, so you're gonna marry me off to this guy, and thankfully he's not like a complete dick. And then she gets there and she is wedded to the guy, but he's dead? Or is he? Anyways, I can't go too much into that part of it, but we get to see how she adjusts to this new kingdom, how she forms friendships based off of like just with her family that's there because her uncle happens to live in the new city she's been shipped off to. And we get to see how she interacts with her family, how she forms friendships and ties with the people that are currently there in the political sphere, because like she moves into an area where it's not necessarily like a really gritty patriarchy, but the king at the time happens to be like very dumb and a jerk, and it's painted that way too. She's like, okay, well, I'll just act dumb, like a dumb little girl that you expect me to be, and I'll sit in your throne room and paint things and listen in on all your conversations because I'm gaining political intrigue. And then she goes later on and finds the faction that her husband had kind of set up and gets in with them. And it's like very realistic how this all plays out. Did I mention she also has a friend called Asion, who is like this old magical little orb thing that holds a lot of knowledge. We're not quite sure if it's all the way alive or if it's just a product of the magic, but he kind of like hangs around like a cross in between a friend and like a doting old elder who like makes sure that she's not going to get herself into too much trouble, because she definitely gets into mischief, and he's like, don't do that. And she's like, I'm going to do it anyways. What are you going to do to stop me? Because you can't physically stop me. And he's like, mm-hmm. And then he calls her best friends in to come in and save her. I'm like, that's a pretty realistic thing. I've definitely gotten myself into situations like that before, where somebody's like, mm-hmm, you're going to do it anyways. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to be here for you when you decide that that was a bad decision. And just like how she falls in love with one of the characters later on, which, yeah, we're talking about female friendships, but she forms a friendship and then that becomes a love in her life. And just, I love Serene so much. She's gonna come up later. We also have some really realistic friendships in The Girl Who Speaks Bear. The main character is Yanka, and she in her village is known as Yanka the bear because she is strong as a bear. And I can get into a book synopsis, but that's not the point of this video. Anyways, she, during her journey, finds out what true friendship really is and found family and all that jazz. And this book depicts that really, really well, I think. We also have Marianne and Eleanor Dashwood, the Dashwood sisters, in Sense and Sensibility. And I mean, it's very realistic. One sister is very uptight and must do everything the right way, but she definitely wants to be there to take care of her family and her sister and make sure that she's in the good graces of the people around her. And her younger sister, Marianne, is just this bubbly personality who doesn't care what society thinks. She's gonna do her own thing and what have you. And they just have a beautiful family relationship. And I liked the Manga Classics version so much that I picked up an original copy. So I'm super excited to read this in its full original account. For more authentic female relationships, I have the audiobooks of these, so I'm just gonna like pop up a cover here, I guess. But in The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, which was finished by Brandon Sanderson because Robert Jordan died, and Sanderson's writing style was really similar, and he would do the research and write it fairly well. We have the characters Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine. Nynaeve and Egwene are from the same village when they start going on their adventure, and they pick up a new friend named Elaine along the way. And even though they're not related, they basically act like giggling sisters together. You get to see how their personalities really play into their friendship and just how them being themselves affects their relationship, which is completely realistic. And they're just doing their own thing and being friends while they're at it, and I love them. They're great. The next prompt is a protagonist strong in her femininity. There are all sorts of depictions of women and all sorts of women doing their own women things, their own women ways. So again, I'm gonna go back to Serene because I love her so much. She's like, she also has the not like other girls vibe, but at the same time not completely that, because like she doesn't have to put anyone down to do her thing. She's kind of a tomboy, kind of a political intrigue person. She is fine wearing pants and fencing and teaching the other women around her how to fence because that's not a thing in the new culture that she moves into. But also she is aware that the women that she's teaching how to fence like don't really wear pants, so she's like, okay, fine, we'll add on this little strap of cloth that like it's still pants, but now it's pants with a flap so that it feels kind of more like a dress and you feel more comfortable in it. And then some days she's just like, you know what, I want to feel like a pretty princess, and she throws on her favorite ornate clothes and is into it. And she doesn't care that the society around her expects her to do certain things the ways that they think she should do it. She's like, I'm just me doing my thing, and that's just gonna have to be fine because that's who I am. I love her so much. And then again, going back to Sense and Sensibility, I love Marianne for being her super feminine self, where she's like, screw your societal expectations. I am going to love people how I want to. I'm going to write them letters even though I'm not engaged. I am going to give this person a lock of my hair because I can, because I really care for them. And even though we're not engaged, I want to promise myself because I believe in love. And I will only marry a person that I love instead of just someone who's an arranged marriage who is dry and boring and I won't get along with. Screw that. I'm going to get someone who appreciates me for who I am. And I'm going to be emotional about it in public, and screw you for expecting me to hold my emotions in public. I love that she's just herself, unapologetically. The next prompt is a matriarchy for the sake of being a matriarchy, because we love a matriarchy. And I am going to go to the Wheel of Time on this again, because there are so many examples of a matriarchy in these societies that he writes. It's fabulous. We have the White Tower, which is the magical association of the women who do the women's style of magic. And the book's built on a premise that only men can touch the male half of the source and only women can touch the woman's half of the source, and the types of magic that those two sources have are very, very different. So the White Tower is the women's magic group, and the White Tower has incredible influence over the world that they are in, and they've built their own society based off of them being women and doing women's magic and keeping the magic in the world in check. And another one is the Shan-Chan, and they are kind of warriors from across the sea, and they, like, honestly, I'm not that far into the series yet to really know what the Shan-Chan are all about, but they very much have a woman empress, and they are very much about taking over the world and having people remember who they are and why they're there. And then we have the the Queendom of Andor, because Andor has always had women on the throne. They will always have women on the throne. Women rule their society, and the daughter heir is one of my favorite characters in the series, honestly, which I've already talked about her a little bit earlier. Elaine kicks butt. She's the daughter heir of Andor, which is fun. Give me 3 matriarchies in one book. There might be more, and I'm just not into the series far enough yet. But I freaking love that there's like women in power everywhere in these books. The next prompt is a book tackling feminism. So let's go back to a lunch. Can you tell I'm really excited about this book? I kind of touched on this earlier, but Sereni, like, first of all, she married herself off on purpose for ties to protect her own kingdom. And then she decides when she's there, the king in power is like, women doing women things are beneath me. And then she just plays into that and she's like, oh, yes, I'm so dumb. Can you believe I just showed up in your throne room to paint paintings of your paintings, even though I'm terrible at paintings? Oh, silly me. Oh, no. Just so she can listen in on their conversations. And then she gets into other areas and acts certain ways based off of what people are expecting from her, just so she can gather intelligence and do things her own way. It's just, yes. It not only showed, and like, it's not just Sereni doing Sereni things, because I cannot remember her uncle's wife's name, but her uncle's wife is one of the most powerful women in the city, because the people in power in this city are merchants, and the better merchant you are, the more money you have. And this woman is just like really great at making deals and not taking crap money for her goods because she knows what they're worth. And she's not taking no for an answer. She's like, I'll walk from this deal. Big whoop. I'm one of the best wheelers and dealers in the city. What you gonna do about it? Also in this book, in the other countries that are kind of talked about a little bit, you can tell that the way that they treat their women is very different from this society. And like how Sereni comes from the place that does fencing, and fencing's a men or a woman's sport, it doesn't matter, but because she's trying to give the women in her new society an outlet because they've been undervalued, she sells it to the king by saying, oh yes, I'm a woman and I can fence, and that was a thing in my society, and oh no, your women are bored and I want to teach them a thing because I'm here and I might as well, and I'm a woman doing it, so it's a women's sport, right? And you'll never pick it up and it's fine. Because you can actually learn some pretty good skills learning how to fence, which actually come in handy towards the end of the book. And that's just super fun. I love it. It points out why, like, being a patriarchal society and undervaluing your women is dumb. I love it. And next we have a book that is a guilty pleasure. So like maybe something you've been made fun of for reading, or something that maybe society has told you is like, ooh, I don't know where I'm going with this. A book that I read in my childhood that I got made fun of for was The Lord of the Rings, but I feel like it's very mainstream now because now there's a movie about it out, and that it became in vogue with my generation finally. It was no longer just a nerdy thing to read, which is super fun because I was reading it when I was like 12, and the kids around me were like, why are you reading that? And then like my friends were like, ooh, can I have that when you're done with it? But then like I feel like that's so mainstream now that it doesn't completely count anymore. So I'm gonna go with the Shadow Falls series by C.C. Hunter because a friend of mine did tell me to read it, and I'm glad that they told me about it. And like, it's the most teenaged angsty set of books that I have in my collection, but sometimes you just want that, and that's what I go to this series for. I haven't read them critically, and I haven't picked them up in a long time, so I wonder if, like I was a kid when Twilight came out, everybody was super into it, and now I go back and I read that, and I'm like, why? These have so many problematic things. Why did I ever like this? So I hope that doesn't happen when I go back and reread these now. But that's my guilty pleasure teenage angsty book series for you, which I have on audiobook, which is why I'm not holding them up right now. So that's the Femathon book tag. Now I have to think of people to tag. Well, I think the Booktube goddess could do this because A, I love to see whatever content my goddess produces, but she's the Booktube goddess. So obviously, I need my goddess to do the Femathon tag. And I'm also going to tag anyone else that wants to do these because I suck at names and I'm totally blanking right now. So if you see this and you want to do it, please do it and let me know that you did it so that I can go watch it. And that's all I've got for you in this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, leave me your favorite emoji in the comments down below and comment a peep. Like peep peep, like cheep cheep, because my birds are making racket in the background and it's about to be spring, which makes me think of the marshmallow peeps, and that's just a whole thing. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Bye!